Alien Empire uncovers why you should never challenge human ground forces. Best HFY stories. The Vasrak Empire, one of the most advanced alien civilizations in the galaxy, had long regarded humanity with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. Their empire spanned across hundreds of star systems, with their fleets dominating entire sectors. Their ground forces were formidable, outfitted with high-tech weaponry and near-impenetrable armor. The Vasrak were proud of their military might, never having been challenged by lesser species until Earth caught their attention. Humanity, a young and relatively primitive species by galactic standards, had recently begun exploring space, catching the Vasrak's notice. The Vasrak saw humanity as a threat, not because of their technology, but because of something far more troubling. They had heard whispers in the galactic underworld of human resilience. It was a strange and unexpected quality, one that no one could quite explain. Their soldiers didn't follow the typical pattern of alien armies. They didn't retreat when they should, didn't obey orders when their commanders deemed it the logical course. This reckless defiance intrigued and puzzled the Vasrak. "Let's test them," said High Commander Zrak, leader of the Vasrak war effort. He decided that they would launch a limited strike on a human colony, just to see how these strange creatures would react. The Vasrak believed it would be a quick victory. They underestimated humanity in every possible way. The battle began on the outer world of Novice 3, a human colony on the fringes of known space. The Vasrak's fleet descended from the skies, raining destruction on the planet below. They believed the human defenders would scatter in fear, like so many other species they had crushed in the past. What they didn't count on was Sergeant Rachel Winters. Sergeant Winters was a seasoned veteran of the United Earth Defense Force. She had fought in countless skirmishes, and had led her troops through battles where retreat was never an option. As the Vasrak dropped from the sky in their formidable battlesuits, she rallied her troops with a simple, yet powerful command: "Stand your ground." It wasn't a grand speech. It wasn't an inspirational moment. It was just a statement of fact. The humans, with their rifles raised, did not break, did not run. They held their positions, firing back with unrelenting precision. The Vasrak were used to seeing their enemies cower or flee, but here, they encountered something else entirely: human resolve. The Vasrak landed on the ground, expecting to quickly mop up the remaining human forces. Instead, they found themselves in a grueling, unexpected fight. Sergeant Winters and her team fought like they had nothing to lose. They used the environment to their advantage, setting up traps and using guerrilla tactics that the Vasrak couldn't anticipate. They moved with a deadly efficiency, determined to protect their homes. Hours passed, and the Vasrak were beginning to realize something truly unsettling. They weren't dealing with an inferior species. They were fighting something they couldn't quite understand, a species that, when backed into a corner, didn't surrender. They didn't flee, they fought harder. The Vasrak commander, Zrak, had expected a quick victory, but now he found himself unable to break the human line. Reports began flooding in from all over the battlefield. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. Sergeant Winters gave a rallying cry to her troops. "Remember, this is our land, and they can't take it from us. We fight, or we die. There's no other option." And that was the key. The Vasrak, for all their superior technology and tactics, didn't understand this. They didn't understand why humans would willingly sacrifice themselves, fight to the bitter end, when they could simply surrender. The Vasrak had never encountered a species like this, one that valued their freedom, their land, and their way of life so fiercely. By the time the Vasrak reinforcements arrived, it was too late. The Vasrak forces on the ground were shattered. The humans had forced them into retreat. The victory was far from flawless, but it was undeniable. In the aftermath, the Vasrak High Command convened a council to evaluate what had gone wrong. Zrak stood before his peers, his usual confidence shaken. "I have never seen a species like this. They are relentless. They will not stop, no matter the odds. They fight for reasons we cannot fathom. We thought them weak, but in their weakness, they are stronger than any army I have ever faced." A wise elder in the council, Iloth, leaned forward. "You underestimate them because you do not understand them. The human strength is not in their technology or their weapons. It is in their hearts. They fight because they must. It is not something you can measure or calculate. It is instinct. It is their very nature." Zrak was silent, absorbing the truth of those words. Months passed, and the Vasrak Empire reconsidered their strategy. They learned to respect humanity's tenacity, realizing that any future war with humans would not be won easily, and might not be won at all. The Empire's report on human combat tactics was circulated to every Vasrak soldier in the fleet. The warning was clear: never underestimate human ground forces. They will fight with everything they have, and in the end, that might be the one thing you cannot defeat. And so, the Vasrak learned the hard way why you should never challenge human ground forces. Because humanity, no matter how advanced or outnumbered, will always find a way to stand their ground. The echoes of war. In the wake of their failed campaign, the Vasrak Empire began to re-evaluate their approach to human expansion. The High Command debated the merits of direct confrontation with humanity, but some factions began to whisper that there was another way. Subtlety, they argued, was the key. If brute force failed, perhaps the Empire could defeat humanity by outthinking them, by taking a more insidious path. But not all of the Vasrak agreed. One faction, led by General Varker, was convinced that there was no room for negotiation, no room for weakness. If the Vasrak were to maintain their dominance, they needed to crush humanity completely. His belief in the Empire's superior might had only hardened after their failed ground campaign. He gathered his forces and made preparations for a second, more decisive strike. This time, they would strike not at a colony, but at Earth itself. Varker's plan was meticulous. He studied the human military structure, their history, and their tendencies. He knew that the humans, despite their victories, would never anticipate a direct assault on their home planet. The Vasrak had never attacked a species' homeworld. It was considered the ultimate show of strength, but Varker believed it would break the human spirit, force them to submit in the face of an unrelenting, all-out war. His fleet gathered in the void of space, cloaked and waiting. In the darkness, they prepared to strike Earth's defenses before they had a chance to mobilize. The Vasrak would strike swiftly, surgically. They would use their technological superiority to neutralize Earth's command centers and cripple their defenses before the humans even realized what was happening. Back on Earth, Sergeant Rachel Winters, now a legend in the United Earth Defense Force, was stationed in the command center of the Earth's primary defense facility. Her eyes scanned the screens as the data from her team poured in. Something felt off. There were anomalies in the sensor readings, faint signals that were just beyond their range of detection. She felt a chill run down her spine. "Commander, I think we've got an incoming fleet. They're cloaked," Rachel reported, her voice steady but tense. The commander didn't hesitate. "Alert all stations. Prepare for immediate defense." It was too late. Before they could mobilize, the first volley of energy beams tore through Earth's orbital defense network, disabling satellites and defenses that had taken years to construct. The Vasrak fleet, emerging from the darkness of space, dropped their cloaks and descended upon Earth. Varker's fleet descended in full force, overwhelming the human defenses with their advanced technology. But just as before, he had misjudged humanity's determination. Earth's forces, despite the initial devastation, fought back. Rachel Winters wasn't one to give up easily, and she wasn't about to let the Vasrak overrun her planet. She knew the odds were slim, but she also knew what had worked before: fight, no matter the cost. As Earth's forces rallied and regrouped, Rachel's voice cut through the chaos. "They're coming for everything. We can't give them an inch." She had seen the look on her soldiers' faces before: fear, uncertainty, but above all, a fierce resolve. The battle that followed was unlike any the Vasrak had faced. Though outgunned and outnumbered, humanity's resistance was fierce. Earth's soldiers, guided by Winter's leadership, fought with every ounce of strength they had. They fought as though the very fate of their species rested in their hands, because, in truth, it did. In the heat of the battle, Varker led his forces into the heart of the conflict, attempting to break through to Earth's capital city. But the humans had learned from their previous encounter. They did not meet the Vasrak in open battle, where they were outmatched. Instead, they utilized guerrilla tactics, luring the Vasrak into urban warfare, forcing them to fight in close quarters where their technological advantages were neutralized. Rachel Winters herself led a small team into the heart of the Vasrak's command ship, intent on sabotaging the fleet from within. The Vasrak had never seen human soldiers in their midst before, sneaky, relentless, and utterly fearless. Winters and her team disabled critical systems on the flagship, causing chaos among the Vasrak ranks. For the first time, Varker felt the pang of uncertainty. The humans were everywhere. They knew their terrain better than the Vasrak. Their tactics unpredictable and their will unbreakable. It wasn't just a military strategy anymore, it was a war of endurance, a test of which side could hold out longer. As Earth's ground forces pushed back the invaders, the Vasrak fleet was forced to retreat, damaged and broken. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the Vasrak realized that they had underestimated humanity in the worst possible way. It wasn't just their tenacity on the ground that made them dangerous, it was their ability to adapt, to learn, and to fight on. Varker's final report back to the Vasrak High Command was short, but it carried a deep weight. They fight like no other species. They do not surrender. They do not give up. They will fight for their homeworld as if it is the last thing they do. They are relentless, and they will never stop. The Vasrak Empire, once confident in their superiority, now found themselves facing a reality they had never imagined. Humanity's ground forces had not just defended their home, they had sent a message. And that message was clear: do not underestimate us. We will never back down. In the grand scheme of the universe, the Vasrak were a mighty empire, but they had just learned that there were forces even they could not conquer: human resolve, the refusal to yield, and the unbreakable will of Earth's defenders. And so, the Vasrak learned a second time why you should never challenge human ground forces. Because even when the odds are impossible, humanity will always stand its ground. The unseen cost of victory. The Vasrak Empire, though battered and retreating, was not the kind to admit defeat easily. Despite the crushing losses they had sustained in their failed invasion of Earth, High Command remained determined. There was still a great deal of pride to salvage, and the Vasrak had their sights set on a new goal: eliminating humanity's will to fight once and for all. The cost of that initial invasion weighed heavily on both sides. Earth had lost thousands of soldiers, entire cities had been devastated, and the survivors bore the emotional scars of the battle. Yet, in the aftermath, there was a sense of something far more unsettling for the Vasrak. Humanity had emerged from the destruction even stronger. Their unity had only grown, as had their hatred for their would-be conquerors. And what had the Vasrak gained from the invasion? A wounded pride, a crippled fleet, and an empire that could no longer maintain its once unquestionable belief in superiority. In the months following the retreat, the Vasrak Empire sought a way to turn the tide, to reassert their power in the galaxy. They began employing psychological warfare, sending propaganda broadcasts to Earth, attempting to demoralize humanity with threats of destruction and promises of unspeakable horrors. But humanity, as always, met it with defiance. "Do you think we fear you now?" Sergeant Rachel Winters said in a global broadcast, addressing the Vasrak directly, her image projected across screens on every corner of the planet. "You came for our home. You came for us. But you found something far worse than an enemy. You found a people who will never stop fighting. You'll have to kill every last one of us before we surrender. And that's something you're not prepared for." The words spread like wildfire. Humanity's defiance echoed in every corner of Earth, a universal challenge to the Vasrak. It was no longer just a war. It was a test of wills, a contest to see whose endurance would give out first. And while Earth stood strong, an unsettling realization began to creep into the minds of the Vasrak leadership. The humans were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something else, something more than life itself. The Vasrak couldn't understand it. Their own soldiers fought because they had to, because of duty or fear of punishment. But humanity fought for a sense of something greater than themselves. They fought because they believed they could never be defeated. They fought for the future, for their families, for their very way of life. It was a force the Vasrak could not quantify, could not destroy, and they couldn't understand why. In one last attempt to crush humanity's spirit, the Vasrak devised a plan to strike at the heart of Earth's most cherished values: unity, hope, and community. They would target the planet's most sacred symbol, the global city of unity, a place where humans from all walks of life came together to work, to share, and to build a better future. Varker, still reeling from his previous defeat, saw this as his final chance to defeat Earth. With a massive fleet, he launched a surprise attack on Unity, aiming to level the city and destroy humanity's collective hope once and for all. As the Vasrak descended, the people of Earth saw it as their darkest hour. The city was caught in the crossfire, the once gleaming towers and monuments to human achievement now crumbling beneath the weight of alien firepower. The destruction was immense. 1,000,000 lives were lost in a matter of hours. But even in the face of such devastation, something extraordinary happened. The survivors, those who had lost everything, didn't despair. They didn't break. Instead, they rose from the ashes. Earth's defense forces, led by Rachel Winters once again, rallied their forces from the ruins. They fought with a fury and a sense of unity that stunned even the Vasrak. It wasn't just military might this time, it was a will to rebuild, a determination to forge ahead in the face of unimaginable loss. In the wake of the attack, the Earth governments held a global summit. They didn't mourn the losses, they planned. They organized. They fought back. The Vasrak had tried to destroy human hope, but they had only proven how resilient that hope truly was. The survivors didn't just rebuild their city, they built a stronger, united world, one that stood in defiance of the invaders. In a final bid for victory, Varker himself led a direct assault on the remnants of Unity, determined to finish what had begun. But when he arrived, he found not a shattered population, but a reborn humanity, united and unwavering. Once again, it was Sergeant Rachel Winters who led the charge. With a small but determined strike force, Winters and her team infiltrated Varker's flagship, this time with a singular purpose: to take out the Vasrak command once and for all. The battle aboard the flagship was brutal, with Winters and her team moving with calculated precision, dismantling Vasrak forces as they fought their way to the heart of the ship. Varker, watching his fleet crumble under the weight of human resistance, made one final desperate attempt to strike at Earth's heart. But it was too late. Winters and her team disabled the flagship's core systems, sending the ship into a spiral towards the planet below. With the flagship destroyed and the Vasrak forces in disarray, the remaining Vasrak ships turned tail and fled, knowing they could never fully conquer Earth. When the dust settled, and Earth's forces regrouped once again, the world had changed. The Vasrak Empire, humbled by the unrelenting spirit of humanity, withdrew. They realized, too late, that there was no force in the galaxy that could bend humanity's will to survive. The invaders had been defeated, not by superior technology or tactics, but by something far more potent: the indomitable strength of the human spirit. The message was clear, and it would echo across the stars: never challenge human ground forces. We will fight, not because we must, but because we can, and we will never stop. And so, the Vasrak learned the most important lesson of all: humanity, when pushed to the brink, becomes something far beyond any force they could ever hope to understand. The true cost of victory for the Vasrak was that they could never conquer what was already unbreakable. The legacy of Earth's defenders. After the Vasrak Empire retreated, their once proud war machine reduced to a shadow of its former self, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. Word spread like wildfire across the stars: humanity had defeated the Vasrak. But victory was not without its scars. Earth's cities lay in ruins. Millions had perished. The battle for survival had left its mark on every human who lived through it. Yet, even in the face of such devastation, something remarkable began to happen. Earth, as a unified planet, rose from the ashes stronger than before. Sergeant Rachel Winters, now a symbol of human resolve and determination, found herself at the heart of this rebuilding process. As the war hero of the defense, she had become not only a military leader but a figure of inspiration. The leaders of Earth's United Nations elected her to represent humanity's interests in the Galactic Council, a position that would allow her to speak for a planet that had never before been part of the greater interstellar community. The Vasrak, meanwhile, had retreated into their own borders, licking their wounds and reevaluating their stance on Earth. No longer did they look at humanity as a weak, vulnerable species ripe for conquest. Instead, they began to understand the true depth of their mistake. The Vasrak commanders, especially Varker, whose ambitions had led to so much devastation, began to realize that humanity's strength wasn't just in its soldiers or technology. It was in the way humans connected, in how they fought as a collective. and in their unwavering belief that their world and their freedom were worth defending. Yet despite their newfound respect, the Vasrak Empire was not without its grudges. Some of their military leaders, particularly those who had lost the most in the war, vowed revenge. There were whispers in the dark corners of the galaxy that the Vasrak might return, not with armies of soldiers or ships, but with something more insidious, something that would break humanity in ways the Vasrak never could on the battlefield. The threat loomed in the distance, but Rachel Winters wasn't one to look backward. Her role was to ensure Earth's future, its survival among the stars. As the newly appointed representative to the Galactic Council, she worked tirelessly to forge alliances with other species, seeking unity where there had once been division. It wasn't easy. Humanity, having fought for so long on their own, had trouble trusting other species. But the lessons learned from the war with the Vasrak were clear. Humanity could not stand alone in a galaxy full of dangerous adversaries. They needed allies. And, as the war against the Vasrak had shown, they had something that the other species didn't, something the Vasrak had failed to understand. An alliance of star systems, many of whom had once viewed humanity as primitive, began to form. The message was simple: we fight together, or we fall apart. The members of this new coalition were not all human, nor did they all share the same goals. Some species had their own agendas. Some sought military strength, others economic advantage. But all knew one thing for certain: humanity had proved that it could survive the unthinkable, and that was something worth standing alongside. Years passed, and while the Vasrak Empire continued to nurse its wounds, the Earth Coalition flourished. Its economy expanded, technology advanced, and the people of Earth began to adapt to life as part of the intergalactic community. Human settlers spread across distant worlds, creating outposts and colonies in regions where once only the Vasrak and their allies had dared to go. But even as the coalition grew stronger, a shadow hung over the galaxy. The Vasrak, with their pride bruised, waited. They had learned their lesson, but that didn't mean they would forget it. Earth had humbled them, but Varker and his faction were not ready to let go of their desire for retribution. They were patient. They would wait for the perfect moment, a moment when they could strike not in open battle, but with a silent, deadly force. Unbeknownst to the members of the Earth Coalition, the Vasrak had already begun to work in secret. They had initiated covert operations to destabilize the fragile alliances the humans had worked so hard to build. Sabotage, misinformation, and espionage, tactics that no one could have expected from the Vasrak, who were known for their overwhelming force, not their subtlety. It wasn't long before the coalition began to feel the pressure. Political leaders on various worlds began to turn against Earth. Rumors of human aggression spread. Discontent brewed. The Vasrak, it seemed, were orchestrating a war of attrition, a quiet war that sought to undermine the human-led coalition from within. Once again, Rachel Winters found herself at the forefront of humanity's struggle, not for survival this time, but for unity. She could feel the pressure mounting. If humanity didn't act quickly, the alliance that had taken so long to build might crumble. The Vasrak weren't trying to defeat them militarily. They were trying to do something far more insidious. They were trying to sow distrust and division among the humans' new allies. Rachel wasn't naive. She knew how dangerous it could be when you had enemies lurking in the shadows. But she also knew the greatest lesson humanity had learned from their war with the Vasrak: the real strength lies in unity. And unity was something humanity had in abundance. They'd fought together for survival. Now, they would fight to keep their future secure. The first step was identifying the threat. Rachel's team, working with allies from other species, uncovered the Vasrak's covert operations. But what the Vasrak hadn't counted on was humanity's resilience. Earth's new coalition had learned to trust one another. The species who had stood alongside humans during the war now stood with them again, this time to expose the true enemy. In the end, it wasn't force that won the day. It was human resolve. Humanity and its allies united not by weapons, but by understanding that the future of the galaxy was too important to let it be torn apart by secret wars and lies. Together, they exposed the Vasrak's sabotage efforts, revealing their schemes to the galaxy at large. The Vasrak Empire, forced to retreat from the shadows once more, retreated back to their borders. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson: underestimate humanity at your peril. The war was not over, but humanity's place in the stars was secure. And so, humanity's legacy grew, one of resilience, unity, and an unyielding will to fight for what was right. The Vastrak had learned the hard way that you never truly conquer Earth. You only awaken something in its people that makes them stronger than ever before. And so, the message spread to every corner of the galaxy: never challenge human ground forces. They will stand, they will fight, and in the end, they will always win. The Eternal Vigil. Years passed, and while peace settled over Earth and its newly forged intergalactic alliances, the galaxy was never entirely quiet. Though the Vastrak had retreated, their hunger for power had not faded. Rumors of their secret experiments, whispers of new weapons of unimaginable power, began to surface across the galaxy. The Vastrak were planning something far beyond mere military conquest. As humanity and its allies rebuilt, one thing became clear: the victory against the Vastrak had not only been a battle for Earth's survival, but a pivotal moment for the entire galaxy. The Vastrak had been forced to confront humanity's strength, but that strength came at a cost. Earth's people would never again live in the shadows of intergalactic power, but that also meant constant vigilance. Sergeant Rachel Winters, now known as General Winters, had retired from active military service after the war. Yet, even in peace, she could not fully shake the weight of her experiences. In the years following the war, she had devoted herself to overseeing Earth's new role within the Galactic Council, ensuring humanity's continued survival. But the quiet had never quite felt like peace, not with the knowledge that the Vastrak were still lurking, that their thirst for vengeance would never be truly quenched. Though the Vastrak had been forced to retreat after their covert efforts were exposed, their defeat was more than just a tactical retreat. It was a moment of reflection for their empire, one that fractured the once unified leadership. While Varker had been exiled by his own people for his failure, not all Vastrak were willing to abandon their desire to see humanity fall. Whispers began to circulate about a new leader, someone even more ambitious and ruthless than Varker had ever been. In secret, the Vastrak began to assemble a new fleet, not to fight for conquest, but to destroy what they had failed to crush before: the indomitable spirit of humanity. In a hidden corner of the galaxy, General Winters was called to action once again. A string of unexplained attacks on Earth's colonies began to raise alarms. Vastrak markings were found on the wreckage. The humans had fought valiantly in every encounter, but the scale of the attacks was growing. This was no longer a mere military threat, it was something much more insidious. The Vastrak weren't just testing their might, they were trying to break humanity's spirit, trying to weaken them from the outside in. Rachel Winters, now an elder stateswoman in the galaxy, knew she could not fight this battle alone. She turned to the coalition that had stood with Earth during the last war. The galaxy had changed since then, and humanity had allies who had learned to respect their unyielding resolve. A council of galactic leaders met, and together, they devised a plan to counteract the Vastrak's growing influence. But the Vastrak had learned much during their previous defeats. This time, their strategy was far more subtle. Instead of direct combat, they employed psychological warfare on an unprecedented scale. They began to infiltrate the minds of those within the coalition, planting seeds of doubt, causing fractures within their once unified ranks. The humans were again faced with a challenge they had never encountered before. The fight was no longer about physical strength alone. It was a fight for the hearts and minds of the galaxy. Humanity's greatest weapon, however, was its unity. General Winters returned to the front lines, this time as an advisor and strategist. But she knew the importance of this new battle. Her years of experience had taught her that in times of strife, humanity could rally, could unite, and could overcome any obstacle, if they only had a cause worth fighting for. The cause was simple: survival. The cause was Earth. The cause was their very essence. As the Vastrak's influence spread, creating divisions among the coalition members, Winters called for a summit, a gathering of the entire galaxy's leaders, from the high councils of the Clanthor to the distant desert planets of the QRWNR. The galaxy's species were called to listen. Humanity's message was clear: we stand together, or we fall divided. In the wake of the summit, the galaxy found itself united once more. But this time, it was different. The coalition was no longer just a political alliance, it had become a living testament to humanity's resolve. The bonds between species were no longer fragile. The relationships forged in the fires of war had only strengthened with time. Yet the Vasrak, still unseen, were preparing for their final move. They had been patient, waiting for the right moment to strike once more, and when they did, they would not simply wage war, they would wage psychological terror, sowing distrust and fear across the galaxy. They would not just strike at the heart of Earth, but at the soul of its unity. The galaxy watched, knowing that the stakes had never been higher. Would humanity's strength of spirit be enough to overcome the looming threat? Or would the Vasrak's patience break the will of the galaxy's newfound peace? The first signs of the new war came swiftly. The Vasrak began to target Earth's allies in small, subtle ways. They launched covert attacks on supply lines, sabotaged critical communications, and spread false information that fractured trust between Earth and its neighbors. But the galaxy had learned. The Vasrak had made a terrible mistake. The coalition, led by Earth, responded not with the might of armies, but with the power of shared experience. As the Vasrak sought to divide them, they only found their unity growing stronger. Human resolve, once again, proved to be the galaxy's most formidable weapon. The Vasrak's infiltration failed. Their divide-and-conquer strategy crumbled, as species that had once been wary of humans now stood side by side with them. General Winters was once again at the heart of the strategy, coordinating the galaxy's united defense against the Vasrak's final gambit. The war would not be fought on the ground this time. It would be fought in the hearts of every species, in the trust they placed in one another, and in their collective will to resist the Vasrak's last attempt to dominate the galaxy. The fight that followed was not one of devastation, but of perseverance, a fight for the future. And in the end, it wasn't the Vasrak's advanced technology that failed them. It was their inability to understand the one thing that had defeated them time and time again, the unbreakable, unyielding spirit of humanity. As the Vasrak were driven back once again, the galaxy understood the truth that had emerged through every conflict, every challenge, every victory. Humanity would never back down. And with that, Earth's legacy was sealed. The galaxy, forever changed by humanity's rise, would never again doubt the strength of human resolve. Because in the end, it was never about the weapons they wielded, the alliances they built, or the power they had at their disposal. It was about the will to stand, to fight, and to never surrender. The legacy of Earth's defenders, of Sergeant Rachel Winters and every soldier, every civilian who stood together, would echo through the stars for generations to come. And the galaxy would never forget, never challenge human ground forces. The unbroken chain. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy peace after the Vasrak were driven into their distant territories. Earth's allies, though scarred from years of conflict, found their trust in humanity unshakable. Humanity had become the beating heart of the interstellar coalition, not because of its military might, but because of its capacity to endure, to grow stronger after every challenge. Yet, even in the wake of this fragile peace, whispers of a new threat began to emerge. The Vasrak, defeated in battle, had not vanished from the galaxy. There were rumors of a mysterious new force, an unseen power that was pulling the strings from behind the scenes, manipulating events and tensions across the galaxy. Despite the growing unity, the shadow of the Vasrak Empire loomed large. General Rachel Winters, now a revered elder figure of humanity, was still deeply involved in the galactic affairs. She had once led her people to victory through the strength of their resolve. But now, as part of the Galactic Council, she spent her days overseeing the diplomatic and defense strategies that kept peace in place. Yet, as the new rumors spread, Winters felt a familiar knot tighten in her chest. Something wasn't right. The galaxy was more fragile than it seemed. Her suspicions were confirmed when an old ally, Colin from the QRWNR system, reached out with urgent news. General Winters, Colin's voice crackled through the communication channel. We've intercepted communications from Vasrak warships operating on the fringes of our borders. They aren't retreating. They're building something massive. Winters' heart sank. Her mind flashed to the endless fight for Earth's survival. The Vasrak had been relentless before. They couldn't be underestimated again. We'll mobilize the coalition, Winters said firmly, her voice unwavering, though the weight of the task ahead threatened to crush her. Not just the Vasrak, Colin continued. There are signs that someone else is involved, an unknown force, aligned with them. They've been working in the shadows, manipulating resources and spreading misinformation. We don't know who they are, but we think they've been operating for years. The revelation hit her like a thunderclap. The Vasrak had learned from their defeat, but now they had something more, an ally, an unknown power in the galaxy's shadows. Prepare the fleet, Winters commanded, her voice sharp. The fire of a leader reignited. I'll convene the council immediately. We need to act fast. The Galactic Council convened in an emergency summit, with leaders of the most powerful species in the galaxy meeting once again to face a threat unlike any before. The once fragile alliances formed after the Vasrak War had solidified, but this new enemy, working in secrecy, threatened everything. The council debated fiercely, with some voices urging immediate military action, while others called for a diplomatic approach, hoping to avoid another war. Winters knew the risk of hesitation. She had seen firsthand how devastating indecision could be. Her years of experience had taught her that while diplomacy was necessary, sometimes, the only thing that could stop an enemy was sheer, unwavering force. We can't afford to wait, Winters spoke up, her voice cutting through the argument. We don't know who's behind this new force or what their endgame is, but the Vasrak are a constant, and if they've allied with someone else, it means they're not just preparing for war, they're preparing for an extinction event. The council's debate raged on, but there was no time to waste. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The coalition leaders agreed on one thing: humanity had to take the lead. Earth had been at the forefront of the fight against the Vasrak before, and now, once again, they had to stand strong in the face of an even greater danger. Winters returned to Earth's command center, her mind racing with the weight of the situation. She knew that this fight would be different. The Vasrak's technological advantage had always been their strength, but this time, humanity would face not only them but a new and unknown threat. The unknown force would take advantage of every crack and flaw in the Coalition's armor, just as the Vasrak had before. The Galactic Coalition, under Winters' leadership, began to marshal its resources. Warships were outfitted with the latest tech, but it was not their technology that Winters trusted most. It was the resolve of the species who had fought together before. They would face the unknown force with unity, with resilience, and with everything they had. The first strike came swiftly, a coordinated attack on a QRWNAR outpost, one of the closest targets to Vasrak-controlled space. The Vasrak ships, along with the unknown force, unleashed their fury, striking with brutal efficiency. But what they hadn't expected was humanity's response. Human ships, piloted by the best and brightest Earth had to offer, descended upon the enemy with lightning speed. The Vasrak's technological superiority was still a factor, but this time, humanity was no longer fighting alone. Their allies fought alongside them, their unity solidified by the brutal lessons of the past. As the battle raged, Winters' forces uncovered the source of the new threat, a coalition of exiled factions, species once subjugated by the Vasrak Empire, who had come together under a single banner. These factions had been secretly nurtured and manipulated by the Vasrak, who had promised them power and retribution against those who had once enslaved them. The unknown force was not just another empire, it was a rebellion of the broken, the downtrodden, and the vengeful. The new enemy was ruthless, driven by a deep hatred for their former captors and a willingness to do anything to bring the galaxy to its knees. But the galaxy had learned one thing: humanity was not a force to be reckoned with. The battle was not one of military might alone, it was a battle of ideologies, of willpower, of who could outlast whom, and humanity had proven, time and time again, that they would not be broken. In the thick of the battle, as Winters led her forces from the front, she realized something profound. The galaxy had already learned the greatest lesson of all. The Vasrak might have underestimated humanity before, but this time, it was not just human strength that won the day, it was their unshakable commitment to the belief that no matter how dark the galaxy became, there would always be those willing to stand against the tide. The war raged on, but humanity's defenders stood tall, never wavering, knowing that the future of the galaxy depended on their unity. Each victory, each skirmish, solidified the truth that had carried them through before: the unyielding will to fight, to defend, to protect, would always overcome the greatest of odds. And as Earth's defenders drove back the final wave of the Vasrak and their vengeful allies, the galaxy came to understand the ultimate truth: humanity would never fall. No matter the odds, no matter the enemies, humanity would always rise, and they would rise together. And the galaxy would never forget, never challenge human ground forces, because when they stand united, nothing can break them.